from the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today, I'm very pleased joining me, Andrew Duncan. Andrew, the way I love to do it is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. So, a little bit about maybe yourself, your experience, and what you're currently up to, and then we can start to take the conversation from there. So, the floor is yours.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me, Mehmet. I appreciate it. I'm Andrew Duncan. I'm the founder and CEO of Vertice Labs, and we specialize in boutique, software engineering for startups and small to medium-sized businesses. And, I think what we bring to the market that's unique is, in my experience, I've worked in industry and consulting for almost 2 decades. There's a lot of bloat and misalignment in the software process, building products or internal processes. And so we just cut through all that. We align strategic management and boots on the ground teams to deliver effectively and efficiently.
That's great. And again, thank you, Andrew, for being with me here today. It's a topic that, although, as much as, I keep discussing it, I always keep, discovering some new insights. And this is why I was happy, when we get connected and, we decided to do this episode together, because I believe, we're not discussing this much enough, in my opinion, because the idea here, Andrew, and, maybe this would be my first question. So especially when we talk about maybe startups, right, and founders who might not also have a kind of the technical capabilities of developing their own software. So why it's good to come to someone like, you and your company to get things done the proper way rather than, just keep trying and, paying a lot of money. So, let's enlighten this area a little bit together.
Yeah, and that's a great question. So in short, like if you're a non-technical founder, and you have a venture idea, and you want to get to market quickly, hiring an expert like Vertice Labs is a surefire way to get it done right, and then get it done well, quickly, right? So, we offer guarantees and support as a standard part of our offering when we engage with clients. But I also often tell founders, if you're building a tech company, you do want to hire a CTO at some point, right? Sometimes you just don't have the time to find that right person if you don't know someone already in your network. So we're a great option for that. We can get you off the ground, get you launched, and we can even help you find that CTO. I've seen time and time again, founders, they'll hire, a contractor and get started, or, an offshore firm. And those can get sideways pretty quickly because if you don't have that strategic technical leadership guiding the engineers or the team or their offshore team, it gets sideways, right? They can paint themselves to a corner, pick tech stacks that or architectures don't quite scale. There's all kinds of obstacles that you've got to navigate. If you're launching a mobile app, for example, there are gotchas through the approval process. If you're in the fintech space, there's compliance that you've got to worry about. So, we bring that, knowledge already baked into whatever we're doing. And so you're not tripping over those along the way, which ultimately extends the time to launch and extends the cost that you're paying for the resources.
Fantastic. Now, I would like a little bit to spend some time on the startup, and especially, maybe, for the folks who would be at the verge. I mean, let me first clarify this. So do you help also in, the MVP stage, Andrew, like to get like at least kind of a working first version? Do you help?
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. So we take it from, idea. You have an idea. You walk into or hop on a Zoom call these days, and you have this idea, and it can be really abstract. You can have this abstract idea, and we help you, whittle that down to a specific niche and the problem that you want to solve, right? Because like building software for software's sake is inexpensive to no end. And what you really want to do is focus on a customer problem, a pain point that you're solving. And so we help founders, identify the specific pain point they want to solve. And we're really big on being niche, being specific, so you don't want to boil the ocean. You don't even want to try to boil a pot when you're building the first version of your MVP. You want to solve a very specific problem, get that out, test the market, get some people on the platform to use it, and then take that feedback to drive the next iteration of your technical implementations.
Right. So we start from the MVP, Andrew, but at some stage, once things start to work properly, let's say, of course, they need to go through different iterations until maybe they can find the proper also product market fit. Maybe they have to a little bit shift things down the road. Now, and I'm taking it from startups, and then I will, shift to the next phase. So do you advise them to have the team, I mean, the development team, as in-house, or you still tell them, okay, as leadership consultancy for software development, like I gonna bring, or like maybe I would help you bring someone part-time, and once things, start to pick up, then we're gonna make this team, full-time with you, and then we will take you to the next stage. So walk me through this process, like when this shift happens and when it applies across each phase of this growth of the startup.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So when you're first starting, we can bring the technical team, right? So we do turnkey ideation to launch, right? Software development, product development, and so we can bring that. If you have a team in house already, right? If you're further along that curve, we can help you align the processes, the strategic vision with the boots on the ground, and make the process efficient. So, there's a bunch of, technical aspects of the software development lifecycle that you can build in efficiencies into. So we help teams and companies navigate that. So I have a couple clients now that we have built a team, right? And they're using Vertice Labs technical talent team to deliver their MVPs, MLPs, which I like to use instead of the MVP, which stands for minimal lovable product, right? You want to build something that you actually can get valuable feedback from. And the ultimate goal is to ramp up a technical team internally because they're a technical product. They're a software as a service platform. And so as time goes on, they're going to launch the MVP, and that's launch is scheduled for March in this particular example. Then we are going to stay on for some time and mitigate any bugs that might creep up, any feature enhancements, because they will get early feedback from users. And then we will phase in their own team that they're going to hire, and I'm going to help them out with that, right? So such that they can have their team that is immersed in their business, they talk to day in and day out. They're engaged with the clients and understanding that client feedback, and ultimately we'll get down from that project. And then I have another client who we're doing the build to them just the same. And the first person we're going to help them find is their CTO / co-founder after we launch their MVP, or actually kind of along the lines of while we're building it. And that's an example of where the founder wanted to move really fast. The founder has some technical capabilities, and so they want to move really fast. They have a seasonal product that they want to launch by a specific time to capture the season. So,
yeah, fantastic. Now, on that, you mentioned something very important, which is related to aligning also the technical team with the biggest picture, right? So everyone needs to be on the same page. So what's the best approach to do this, Andrew? Like, and this is why I love, this is why they're called CTO Show, right? So the CTO is the guy whose main responsibility to align tech and business. So what's the best approach that you have seen working for making this alignment perfect?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I was a CTO for many years in the industry. And so what I have found is this sort of a unique skill set of, sitting in the boardroom and with founders and discussing where the company needs to go, right, long term, and how to get there. And then sitting in the individual teams, software engineering teams, and talking about what we're doing tomorrow, right? There's a bridge a gap that you have to bridge to do that. And so what I have found is, and I talk about this all the time with my clients, is you, CEO, COO, CFO, you guys have to continue to stay focused on the long term and what we want to do 12, 24, 36 months from now. And then have those conversations and have them in depth and detail. And then my job, or the CTO's job, whoever's sitting in that role, their job is to participate in those conversations, talk about what is capable, what we're going to need to make what's capable happen. And then they have to turn around and go sit with the technical teams, with directors and team leads, and talk about what we're doing right now, right, at a detailed level enough that people can write code for it, right? But also communicate that in not for too distant future, we're going to be doing this. And so they provide the context of what's happening right now within the larger vision. And an important aspect of that is focusing on what the business's goals are. So like long-term goals and short-term goals. What we're working on right now, we have a very specific intention and desired outcome that we want to achieve. And so aligning that specific outcome with what the actions are that we're taking today with the context of what is in the future is the skill set.
Right. Now, this is very insightful, Andrew, and I think it's not an easy task. It's like a big responsibility also as well. And now, not only as startups, even like in small, medium businesses, and even in the big enterprises as well. So one of the things that as leadership, you need to make sure is you are not wasting your resources. And when I say you're not wasting your resources, that's both as human resources, or kind of, you want to call it like wasting the time of your team, and of course wasting money. So from your experience, and maybe you can tell me more about the role of utilizing like consultancies like the one you have, Andrew, for effectively managing not wasting people's time, and also of course not wasting the money as well.
Yeah, 100%. So, in software engineering, you have your teams, your engineer teams, and, you're paying them salaries, right? And so if you waste their time, you are wasting the company's resources. And in this case, it's capital resources and opportunity costs. And this is something I'm super passionate about. And part of how I think about when I'm building what I like to call high performing software engineering teams. A huge aspect of that is kind of what we just talked about previously. That is making sure that whatever we're focusing on has a desired outcome, and keeping that desired outcome as the lens through which we look on for the actions that we're taking right now, right? And so, aligning every effort with some desired outcome that is clear, that is crystal clear, that we know and can measure what that outcome is a big piece. That's sort of step one. And the step two, a big thing that I talk about is anytime a development team is idle, you're just burning cash, right? And so I talk a lot about keeping the team fed, and that is making sure they have the next highest weighted priority tasks to work on, right? So whatever the effort is, it's prioritized by the business, again, with the context of that desired outcome. And it's clear enough that an engineering team can go execute on it, because computers only do exactly what you tell them to do. And so if there's ambiguity, then the engineering team will have ambiguity. They will either make assumptions. I'd say they make thousands of micro decisions every day. So they'll make assumptions. They'll write the assumptions into the code, and that comes out on the other side as missing the target of the desired outcome, right? So being really clear about what we're doing so that we can hit the target, and then keeping the context of what that target is, are two really key aspects of that. And that happens through many conversations between the executive team and the director level for larger organizations, or just, founders and the development team in startups.
Right. So talking about also avoiding failures. And the context, I'm aware that it's different between like maybe a small or organization, startup versus big companies. Things can go wrong. So in startups, for example, we always hear about the term, and we discussed it many times on the show also as well, which is, like after a while, you discover you start to have a technical debt, and this technical debt, um, it results of something to fail, and then you figure out, oh, like what we were doing all this time, again back to the wastages, right? So it's like kind of wasted. And in big organizations, we see, okay, they have this initiative, they start to work on it. So is it like lack of understanding the technology? Is it because we are trying to move too fast? I'm trying to first understand, the root cause of the problem, and then how I can avoid, failures by maybe putting some guidelines or whatever you want to call them. So I make sure, of course, failure is possible. That's everyone can do mistakes, but I mean, reduce the risk of failing as much as possible.
Yes, great question. So, startups could fail for a number of reasons, right? And one of which could be your product doesn't launch, or your product fails when it launches. And then there's a whole host of other ones, like you don't have product market fit, or you've gotten a bad reputation in the market because your product doesn't work, right? And so that's technical debt failure. Or you don't have the right sales and marketing funnel, or you're not solving the right problem, right? So there's a number of reasons, but like just to kind of hone in on how it can fail with just the technical aspect, it's in and of itself a quite complex problem. So a lot of it has to do with how we just previously talked about around aligning the vision with the tactical, right? And so that's a piece that often gets missed, right? Just sort of translating the goal of the company to the technical team and having what they produce to align to that goal. Big piece of it. And then the other pieces I would say is on the technical implementation side itself, right? So a lot of times startups will, hire individual, contributor or contractors that are engineers because it is, or it appears to be more cost effective, right? And then what happens is there's not that person who can translate what the business outcome is to that team. And so there's a lot of decisions being made that, again, are going to just slightly miss the target. You stack up sort of those decisions over time, and you miss the target by a large margin. And then, a big piece of this that I like to tell a lot of the founders that I work with is you don't have to solve every single problem today. I think of startups as like, being on a pond and you're trying to jump from lily pad to lily pad, not fall into the lake, right? And so that's, the next milestone that your business needs to reach to survive a little bit longer, get a little more product market fit, raise more capital, generate more revenue, right? Whatever those milestones look like. And so as a the person in that CTO role, right, is their job is to translate what decisions can we make that we have to make today, and what trade-offs can we make today to make it to that next milestone, so our startup doesn't die. We don't run out of money, right? We don't have to raise more funding and sell the company or sell parts of the company prematurely, right? And so those are little ways. It's a complex task, but those are little ways that you mitigate project failures along the way. And then I'll add to that a big piece of this, just like purely tactical, is whether you're working with a consultancy like Vertice Labs, or you have an internal team that you trust dearly, right? No matter what, you use your product, test your product, right? So part of our standard process is we kick off a project with a client. We go through the alignment exercise where we want to figure out exactly what your goals are. It's a new product. The goals are pretty simple. It's like get it built, get some people on it, get some feedback, test the product market fit, and then grow it a little bit from there and test again, right? And so lost my train of thought. I was saying, oh yeah. So standard part of our process is, so we start with that, right? That alignment exercise. And then really early on in the development phase of working with clients, we set up a test environment for them to log into. They touch it, feel it, get feedback from stakeholders who are, on their side, who will give them, constructive feedback on the direction of it. But the biggest piece of that is, what I like to say is, if your technical team says something is done, but you can't use it. Like you can't go through a full, test of that feature. It's not done. And so you shouldn't consider it done when you're planning.
Right. Um, very, very insightful, Andrew, really. Um, on the point of, because you mentioned a couple of points which, stuck in my head, as I can say. Um, there is also like this fact, especially in startups, that because especially if they are maybe VC funded, so they have to, move fast sometimes, right? Um, and moving fast means also like taking decisions. So, and here is the famous, I would say, dilemma. Like, should we all rely on data alone? Is it like mix of data and gut feeling? I like to call it this way. So, like how again to do this balance, because sometimes like really you need to take decision and you need to move very fast, and this is both, that it might be a technical decision that affects the whole business. It might be adding a feature, it might be, I don't know, like changing the technology stack, whatever it is. So we need to take decisions fast, but at the same time you need to make sure that it's taken based on some facts. So what have you seen working in this space?
Yes, this is one of my favorite. I actually just wrote an article on this. You can check it out at verticelabs.io. But basically, I titled it, "Moving Fast Without Breaking Everything." And this is one of the reasons that I love the startup space and the SMB space is you have to move fast because every day that goes by, you burn more capital, you risk failure, you risk first mover advantage, things like that. And so I like to think of it as like this, right? In the early stages, you have an idea and you have a pretty good reason why you think that idea would work, right? Ideally, you're solving a very specific pain point for your target customer. And so you have to build something to test that idea, right? Now you can start with, interviews, customer interviews, and getting feedback and testing the market. And you certainly should, because that's generally free. Maybe you spend a few dollars on some gift cards, but it's not going to cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And so you get that feedback, and then you test what you think will solve that problem. So you build the first iteration of your product. The key to that is you don't overbuild it, right? You don't build too much at one time. You build enough to solve a very specific pain point, right? Then you release it into the wild. And it needs to solve the pain point. It can't be the premature product that needs to solve, but you also don't need to solve all the tangential pain points that come along with it. All those are very clear opportunities to scale your product in the future, right? And so that's one way you mitigate, not having all of the data yet to make that decision. And then you take this process expands. You take the feedback from that first iteration. You gather the data. You're doing your customer interviews for people who are using your product, right? You're getting feedback from them. You take all of that data and you usage patterns of your product, right? You take all of that data, and that helps you decide very clearly what to focus on next. Now, you don't just make the decision purely on data. You also use, again, you know the problem space and the problems that you're trying to solve. So you use additional hypothesis that you formulate to pair with that data to make the decision on the next direction for the company. And so I've seen that work very well. I helped scale the startup from idea to 28 million in revenue their first year using this process. And that was a very fast break some things process that we used. But we hit the milestones. We were able to land on the next little lily pad every single time over the course of, I think, it was over the course of 18 months. And so that's an effective way to approach that.
Wow, fascinating, Andrew. We can't be talking about all this stuff without talking about AI, right? So let me start with the AI. Recently, we are starting to see more and more AI being used for within the software engineering process itself. I mean, like generating code. And so is this like something which is now, because it's been, I mean, for a while, maybe less than a year, I mean, in the sense of, going mainstream, but is it like now the default de facto, I would say, way when even hiring maybe the talents that we need to let them know that they're gonna be ready to embrace, for example, working with AI technologies that can help them in writing code. Is this now what's hot and trending?
It is hot. It is trending, but it's not a trend. I think it's here to stay. So I use AI tools. I love it. I still write code. I love to write code. And I use AI tools regularly to write code. I started out using GitHub's Copilot as an extension into the Visual Studio Code IDE. I now use Cursor, which is an IDE that has it built in and connects directly up to the LLMs. And then Vercel has a generator. There's a ton of tools out there that just significantly reduces the mental load on any given engineer and on any given day, which is nice because I know I have to build this thing and achieve this outcome with the thing that I'm building, and I know how to do it by hand, and I could do it that way. But it's nice to offload some of that the mental load of how do I structure the code, how do I write these lines to a tool, and I can focus more on the business context and the problem that I'm trying to solve, which again, with the process of aligning vision with tactical, gets you to the solution, the outcome a lot faster. Now, there's a couple things to know. I would say what I'm seeing is AI is not replacing people yet. I would say yet. I think, maybe at some point it could replace, engineers, but it won't replace them all. I don't think, us as software engineers have to fear our jobs going away, but they're certainly making us a lot more efficient. And so, as an example, junior engineers who are like earlier in their career and still learning their, more complex software engineering concepts can produce a lot more. Code integrity is a lot higher they can produce because they have a guide, they learn faster, and they can produce at a higher rate than previously before without using the tools. There is something to be said about the human in the loop. There are always going to need to be humans involved in AI, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, because someone has to provide the context, right? So the AI as it is today is not necessarily creative. It doesn't have drive, and that's a innately human, a human thing, right? And so someone has to provide that context of why we care about the desired outcome, and why we're doing what we're doing, and what we should consider as a part of what we're doing. So that's a big part of that too. One of the things we've started playing with is automated AI agentic workflows, and so that is AI agents. Think of like every role on the software engineering team. You can train an AI model to do, right? So, you have QA engineers who are writing tests and manually testing the products. You have DevOps engineers who are writing infrastructure as code and scaffolding your infrastructure in the cloud. You have your back end and front end software engineers. So every one of these roles a model can be trained to play that role and interact with each other. And so we have started using AI agents in our SDLC process to see how fast and how capable these models are at doing these types of activities, and then the quality of what code that they produce. And what we have found is you still have to have that human in the loop, provide the context. Sometimes you have to settle tiebreakers between AI agents. They kind of get in the lock. But for the most part, they can produce really high quality code at a significantly higher velocity, right? Because it's an AI model, right? It's using computer resources and not mental resources, and they're not hindered by the scale linear time, which is a whole other argument that I can get into whether time is linear or not. So anyways, I think it's quite a powerful technology, AI as a whole. But I think humans are still highly required to be involved.
I'm happy you brought the topic of agents, because this is what I'm personally excited about since more than 1.5 years, I would say, when I saw the first attempt with something like AutoGPT and Baby AGI and these other projects, which are, in my opinion, maybe we're not there yet, to your point, 100%, but it opened our eyes and the community eyes that this is something which is the future. And I was so happy when I saw also, I think it was last week or the week before, when I see Anthropic, when they released the new cloud model, they introduced also, they start to talk about it. My expectation is OpenAI has something that is hiding from us and waiting the right moment to announce it. It's just a feeling that I have, because they couldn't have figured this out. I don't believe that. But yeah, it's a game changer. And I think, but again, like to add to your point, and I like this because on the creativity part, this is where, someone like you, Andrew, will always be needed. A person who has this, experience, and, you can not only, I mean, write code or advise them like who the talent that you need to do, like you become kind of the orchestrator for all these innovations. And now, instead of thinking, for me at least, instead of you as the expert, Andrew, oh, should we use this? Should you use that? Like the code is not optimized here. So you just focus on, the innovation and the creative part, which I'm excited about it, honestly. And I think, this is what would allow, which is good news for you, by the way. It allows for more people to get more startups. Like, I believe we're going to have like more startups down the road, which is amazing. Now,
Yeah,
you
it's really exciting. Yeah, I do. It's really exciting because it reduces the barrier, the cost of, the barrier to entry to launching an idea, right? If you have like a sound idea that you think solves a real problem, it reduces the barrier to entry, primarily from a capital factor to launching a product into the market with, the engineers becoming more efficient, being able to supplement the process from an automated fashion, and then freeing people up to focus primarily on the problem space itself, right? Like significantly reduces the barrier to entry, which is good for me because I love, one of my big peeves is I can build anything. I can't build a rocket ship, but I can build any piece of software. I don't like building software that people don't use, right? Because I've built it for so long and I've worked in, large companies and small companies. I like solving problems, right? And so that's the thing that I'm passionate about, which is part of why I started Vertice Labs was, I want to solve real problems that make an impact on people's lives. And so you get to focus on that, which is really exciting. So yeah, and like I think, Anthropic released a new version of Claude that now has the capability to interact with a computer the same way a human would, and it can drive around, browse the web. It can solve. You can give it a problem that is a multi-step, multi-task problem, and it can go to websites and figure out what it needs to do on the website to gain information and submit forms, and like it's starting to use computers like humans do, and that's really interesting.
It's really cool. So I didn't try it yet. I saw just the video and it's mind blowing, right? So
Yeah.
endless opportunities, I would say. Now, from again AI perspective, but this time not within the coding process, or I mean software engineering perspective, and maybe this applies not to start. It might apply to startup as well. So when not to use AI, Andrew? I mean, because we don't want to just complicate our lives and just say, hey, I'm going to use AI for the sake, like I say, I have an AI enabled whatever startup, or like we leverage AI to do 1, 2, 3. So
Yes.
What really matters here? I would ask you.
Yes. So that's a really good question. Something I have been diving into deeply lately, actually. So AI is, think of it like this. It's an ingredient, right? So like, if your product is a restaurant and you serve, food, you serve dishes to your patrons, AI is an ingredient in one of those dishes. So it's like, salt or parsley or garlic, right? So it's not a product and it's not a solution, right? You use it as a part of your process to enable your engineering teams to move efficiently, to increase the customer experience and customer value of your product, to better deliver on your services, right? And so you still have to solve a problem. Your business still has to solve a problem that people will find value in. And then AI is a tool and the solution of your problem. It is incredibly powerful and it can do a lot, but you can't start with AI as being the solution, right? Because it needs to solve that problem. So the way that I'm actually about to launch a AI workshop to help businesses figure out the best way to start with AI in their business. And one of the key aspects of that is take a problem that you're already solving today, right? You're solving it maybe with humans, maybe with some, some code that does some automation, and take that problem and then ask, how can AI solve this better, faster, more efficiently? And then ultimately what the impact is to the customer, right? And if you look at it through that lens, then you have a real use case for it, right? And then you start seeing the gains, right? The benefit to the company, and that is, increased revenue, decreased operational costs, and more satisfied customers, right? So you can draw a direct line between those things when you start with the problem itself and apply AI to it. So I've seen it used in a number of ways. So products, will use AI for, data transformation, right? Like you have manual processes where people are, manually entering data or crunching data, and, they get it 80% right. You can apply AI to that and it will significantly speed it up. You don't have to hire as many people as you scale to do that transformation. And there's process automation so that you transfer the data, then you can automate the end process that you apply AI at different steps, right? And then, we just talked about the agentic world where that's coming up now. I think we're not too far away from that, where you can deploy agents to do that on your behalf automatically. So, and then embedded in products, people are using it for increasing customer satisfaction. So, like, the way that we've used it is there's the common, which this came up, it was exciting a year ago, but RAG applications where you build an AI workflow, you ingest some data, you synthesize that data, you can explore that data through chatbots, which was sort of like the entry into the world of what AI is capable of. But there's a bunch of other things that you can use that data for. So, for example, you can use it to, especially with the public LLMs, to learn more and add data into your products that AIs already know about because they've been trained on such massive volumes of data, right? So you can add that in your product where you otherwise would have to go connect with APIs and build partnerships with other companies that you don't necessarily need to do anymore because the AI knows it. You can just ask it, and it's just part of your $20 or pay per usage plan, right? And so you can use it for understanding images. And so one of my clients is using AI where the product allows you to take photos of things. It will tell you what that photo is. It will give you information about that photo, information that you're particularly interested in, and then give you actionable insights of things that you need to do or can do to accomplish the goal that you want to do in their product.
Right. Andrew, I think, the discussion can go and go and go and go, but, we have to get it to here now. I really enjoyed it. Like, really, it's something what I was looking for from long time. I see the energy, and that's why I want to ask you, Andrew, how people can get in touch with you. Where can they find more about you and about your company?
Oh, yes, great. It's Vertice Labs.io. It's spelled V as in Victor, ERTICE Labs.io, or you can email me at Duncan@verticelabs.io.
Great. So for the audience, you don't have to follow letter by letter. I made your life easy. So if you're listening on your favorite podcasting app, you will find the links in the show notes, or if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll find it in the description. Andrew, again, thank you very, very much for being with me here today. I really appreciate, the insights, the experience that you have shared with us, and also how you gave us, these real examples from real scenarios in the real world as well. So thank you for doing that. And as always, this is what I tell the audience at the end. If you just discovered this podcast by luck, thank you for passing by. If you enjoyed, give us a thumb up, share it with your friends and colleagues, and, share with anyone who you know. And if you are one of the people who keeps coming back and, send me their suggestions, comments, and feedback, thank you for doing so. I really read and enjoy all of them. If I have to change something, whether good or bad, tell me about it. I will try to do it. And as I say, as usual, we will meet again very soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Hit that subscribe button. Share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs. And leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.